Well, I guess it could have been worse. Welcome in, everyone, to the Talkin Kentucky postgame show. I'm joined tonight by Brad Harvey of College SportsCast, as always. John Hammonds is not on with us tonight because, as he said down here in the comments, there's not really much to talk about. He says, good thing I didn't show up. I would have said things I regret. I'm not wasting my time. So it's just me and Brad tonight. Corey Reynolds here in the comments says, what's there to talk about? And there's not much, Corey, and we're going to try to keep this brief for obvious reasons here, but we do want to let some fans vent. We do want to talk a little bit about the game, talk to some fans, maybe take some comments and some calls and things. Brad, that's all I got. I'll give it over to you.
Well, I mean, I want to start from the beginning. I thought the Cats come out, played pretty well, had a 10-7 lead at halftime, but I mean, from the very beginning, we broke a good run. Very first play, Will Cox had a 40, 50-yard run. We drove the ball once again inside the 5-yard line. And once again, Stoops decides to go for it, and we get nothing. How many times, Coleman, has that happened this year? That we got inside the 5 or 10-yard line and Stoops went for it and we got nothing.
Well,
It's happened.
It's the fourth game in a row.
Three or four games?
I know it's happened at least 4 times. So, yeah, it's definitely the 4th game in a row.
Well, my question to you is, where is that coming from? Because Stoops always went and got the points until this year. And I don't really understand that. Where's that coming from? It's not like his character.
I think he's trying to find the balance of being aggressive, because I think he knows he has to be more aggressive in today's game. So I think it's the balance of that and then just not having any sort of offensive efficiency. So a lot of times, like in the first half there, we wanted to go for – normally Stoops would take the points, right? But we felt like we had to be aggressive, and then we came up empty. Yeah, those field goals certainly seem like they would have made a difference late in the game.
There at the end of the game, would those 3 points not have made a difference? I'm not saying that we win the game, but we certainly would have been in a better position if we take those points. Now, I'm also going to talk about early in this game, what is up with officiating in college football? Because Brock Vandegrift runs to the sideline, and a guy who is a defensive guy that is not in the game shoves him to the ground.
That
on
was
the sidelines.
One of the most blatant
and
things
there's no flag.
Yeah. That was one of them. And Jeremy says, preach. Yeah. Brad, can you remember a more blatant no call than that in college football? I can't. I mean, I'm not whining.
World?
I'm not whining.
That's not a whine. This is football. We've known the rules of football for many, many years. There is no excuse for that not being called whatsoever.
Yeah, Jeremy says the official was looking right at it too. Yeah, he was standing right there.
There's no excuse.
Right at it.
I mean, honestly, those refs should have their license or whatever the hell they have. They should have
ref
them
license
revoked. I mean, there's no excuse for that not getting called.
Do you think ever happens? Do you think the SEC actually ever does anything about this?
Something? I mean, honestly, that is beyond a ridiculous no call. There's nobody that's ever watched a football game that knows football that would ever say that shouldn't have been called. And then later in the first half, they clearly jump off sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
on a drive
when they called false start on Eli.
And they called a false start on Kentucky.
Yeah.
The guy
Eli Cox was like, what?
and hits our offensive lineman, and he moves because the guy hits him, and they call us for offsides. I mean, there was just some calls in this game that was horrendous early on. And I think some of that also affected the game early on in this as well.
So do you think, Brad, do you think we played – Josh asked us a little bit earlier if we played well or if it was just kind of a crapshoot.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Coleman. Before this game started, I was like, I really kind of expected this game to be ugly. And I don't mean us false starts and that kind of stuff, and an interception and a fumble. And I don't mean that. I mean, I kind of was expecting this game to get out of hand, and it might be a 52-10 game or something, to be honest with you. So, yes, I'm not terribly – listen, the loss of his mother, Mike and Mark, and everything that has went on in the last 2 weeks and stuff with this team, I mean, and then when you look at the injury list for this team, they don't need an injury tent. They need an injury bus.
They need like an injury house.
Like, seriously, they need to park a bus on the sidelines so the guys can run in and out of this, because we've got more injuries than Carter has kids. I mean, seriously.
Why is that? Like, I mean, it's not usually like that with Stoops teams. It's like if everybody plays if they can. Like, it's not like Cal. It's not like Kentucky basketball has been the past few years. So
I agree. I'm not exactly sure, and then during the game, I mean, Barrion Brown goes down with a rib injury. Brock goes down with most likely a concussion. How many others was out of the game there? I mean, Ripko went down. Saunders went down. I mean, and we've got, yes, Bill, I think Brock had a concussion.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if you knew, Brad, what the injury was there.
Yes, it was they didn't say concussion; they said head injury is what they called it. But most likely, Bill, that's a concussion. Would be my guess. Now we do have a bye week, so maybe Brock was supposed to play this whole game. They told the TV guys before the game the intention is for Brock to play this complete game. There was no intentions of a Gavin Wimsatt even being in this game at all. So when he didn't come back out, I mean, he took a hit, pretty bad hit to the head and neck area. And then when he fell back and hit his head as well. So they didn't technically call it a concussion, Coleman. They called it a head injury is what they called it.
Well, Jalen brings up a good point here, and this is exactly what I was thinking as the game wrapped up. I think I'd rather, he says, I think I'd rather have gotten destroyed than watch us blow opportunity after opportunity at having a chance at winning. I agree. I agree.
Jalen, and not me, man, not me. If we would have been getting blown out, I would have turned the game off. I wouldn't have watched the rest of it.
Oh, sure, I wouldn't have either. But
because I can't stand Tennessee. I think anybody that knows me knows that I cannot stand Tennessee. Like, I literally can't stand Tennessee. This is probably the most important game to me the entire year. And I'm going to put it out there that I dislike them and this game about as much as any game, and I'm including basketball.
Mm-hmm. And Jason says Tennessee fans are awful. Yeah, man, the booing during the injuries.
Tennessee fans are beyond awful. They're pathetic, to be honest with you. And that's part of the reason why I grew up going to Kentucky, Tennessee games in the 80s when I was a kid. I grew up going to Kentucky, Tennessee games, and I saw firsthand just how awful and ugly Tennessee fans were. And I'm talking back in 84, 83, 85. I'm talking a long time ago. And Tennessee fans then were obnoxious and ugly and tried to fight all the time and throw stuff at people. And I mean, it was just there is nothing like honestly, they're kind of pathetic. And that's part of the reason why I grew up just absolutely despising Tennessee.
Yeah, it's hard not to. It's hard not to. But let's talk about Brock for a minute. You know, at the beginning of this week, Brad, we saw that like the starting job for this game was up for grabs. We saw that, you know, Gavin Wimsatt and Brock Vandagriff, it was kind of going to be a battle this week for who got to play. What do you make of that? Did that surprise you to see that?
I don't really think that was the case. I think that's what they were spinning and what they were putting out, because as this game got approached, I mean, from what I heard, Brock was the number one guy all week long, and they were planning a whole thing for him to be the number one guy and get all the snaps tonight and stuff. Matter of fact, they even said Brock was told that this is his team and that he was going to get all the snaps. So privately, I really don't think that's what was going on. I think that was just a ruse to try to get Tennessee off, to make them think that they were going to have a battle or whatever. I don't really think that was the case whatsoever. I thought Brock played pretty well tonight for the most part. I thought the offensive line was horrible.
Oh yeah.
And beyond the offensive line, there were times in this game, and the play that knocked Brock out was one of these plays. And I don't understand it. And Jordan Rodgers was talking about it on the broadcast tonight. They were slide blocking and leaving holes when you don't have to do that. The play that Brock got hurt on, they slid block, meaning 4 offensive linemen take a step and slide over, and they literally left a hole in front of James Pierce, who is, by the way, one of 2 or 3 the best defensive in the SEC, and just left James Pierce wide open, and nobody touched him. And he come in and knocked Brock out. Now you tell me, why are they doing that? Why are they slide blocking and leaving gaps in the offensive line?
I don't know. It's poor coaching, but Jared says, has Stoops ever developed a freshman QB, or has he always gotten transfer QBs? Well, I mean, to be fair, he's always gotten transfer QBs, I think, or historically has done that. But like, I think that's kind of what you do in this day and age in college football. I mean, I don't really blame him for that. I think he's doing the right thing there. But Brad, do you put this on, like, would you say that Brock Vandagriff is not as good as advertised, or do you think this is just all on the offensive line?
I don't think. I mean, for me personally, I think Brock is a much better quarterback than most Kentucky fans are giving him credit for, to be honest with you. I think if you give him just a little bit of time and have the right play calls as well, I don't think the play call, the OC in this scenario is really good at what he does, to be quite honest with you. I think if Brock was to come back and get a second year and have some blocking and have some correct play calling. I mean, there were times tonight, Coleman, we ran a play It was on a third down, and we ran a play. Even the announcers are confused. We ran a play on a third down that was like 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 9, something like that. I think it was in the third quarter. And we ran a play with only 2 routes. There was only 2 routes.
Mm-hmm.
There was only 2 places for Brock to even go with the ball.
And Brad, you were sort of talking about this last week about really worrying about the future of the program. So AFIO says, with NIL and younger commits, I'm nervous we are going to get left behind. Is it just a bad year or what? Stoops supposed best team. Yeah, it's supposed to be Stoops' best team. Yeah. So Brad, do you worry about that? Like if there's a coaching change or whatever, like do you worry that we're falling so far behind that it's going to be hard to catch back up?
Well, I mean, let's be honest, guys. We got about 7 or 8 4-star defensive players in last year's class that aren't playing. They're not even on the field. Brian Robinson, the Smith twins. We flipped 3 guys from Michigan last year that were committed to Michigan. So then right now they got a top 22, top 23 class coming in with again 7 or 8 4-star guys. As far as recruiting, the answer to that is no. I'm not exactly worried just yet, because I think that if they stay, I think we can be in pretty good position in a year or 2. Now, what I'm not really liking, Coleman, is this. I think us depending on NIL transfers is really not working out.
No. I mean, but why? Is it that the players aren't good, or is it our coaching?
Here's the deal, though. When we get NIL transfers that stay for a 2nd or 3rd year, look at Zion Childers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who transferred in and is now getting a second year, maybe 3rd, 2nd year, I know. And he's a much, much, much better player. The problem I have with the NIL and the transfers is everybody is under the assumption that they're going to come in and fix stuff right away. And it's just not happening. I think those players, it's going to take 2 to 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we said earlier this year, Zion Childers might be one of, if not the best get in the transfer portal by Mark Stoops in his time at Kentucky.
Yeah, but the thing is he's got more time. Zion Childers has gotten more time.
Saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, what about, you have guys like Ray Davis, obviously, that last year came in and were able to make an immediate impact. Obviously, Chip Trainum was not that.
Ray Davis was good last year for us. I'm not saying that you can't have 1 or 2 that comes in and do that.
I mean, Will Levis came in and had immediate success,
and so did Wandale Robinson. There's a few of that can do that. I'm not saying you don't get any. I'm just saying when you bring in 12 guys and you think these 12 guys are going to fix everything in one season, it's not happening. I mean, you might get 1 or 2 of them. But, I mean, let's talk about Macklin. Jamari Macklin for just a minute.
Let's talk about Macklin, yeah.
I want to transfer. He's a transfer, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, in his first year, he's been MIA most of the year. And yes, tonight he caught 2 passes and finally scored a touchdown for Kentucky. Finally. In game 9. Finally. All right. And I'm not going to say anything terrible about him, but what I am saying is this. If you put Jamari Macklin in this offense again next year, and give him a second season with Brock, I bet you anything he's pretty special.
He's like freaking octopus out there, man. He's catching everything. I mean, that both of those catches, the touchdown and the 2-point conversion, it was just like a suction
catches.
cup. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were tough catches.
But Jalen says, do you think we might see a mass exit of players to the portal, especially on the offensive end? I think that'll probably depend largely on what happens with the coaching staff, if there's any changes in the offseason, Brad. What do you think?
If there is changes, yes, I think we will see a mass exit of players. 100%.
So let's talk. Well, let's talk about that for a second. Well, actually, I want to come back to that. Theo asked a question here. Could we equate the O-line struggles to it being a typical Stoops O-line? Run the ball, tough, gritty, but we have good wideouts and a 5-star QB, but our O-line isn't built to pass block. I think that's definitely part of it.
Well, I mean, honestly, Theo, the last 3 years, even in Will Levis's last year, the last 3 years, we've not been a good pass block team.
No.
I mean, we just not. We have not been a good pass block team.
How can we be so – because you, Brad, you know more about football than me. How can we be so good at run blocking but so bad at pass blocking? Is that normal?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty normal for offensive linemen. Most of the time, you're either good at one or the other, because run blocking, you have to get really low and you have to drive. You have to get under them and drive, and you push. You take your hands and you push and you drive them forward. That's run blocking. Pass blocking, you have to get up in a stance and you have to guard them, and you're up in on your 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So and you have to be quick to get back there because you're on the line, and you've got to be really quick to get back there, because if not, they're already a step past you.
Jared says it's easier to block going forward than it is going backward. Yeah.
And the pass blocking, you have to go backwards, and they're going forward. So, you know what I mean? Like, if they're quick off the line, if you're not quick as a cat getting off that line and getting back, then you have issues.
So we're just not athletic. We're not athletic at the O-line. That's what you're saying.
Well, it's hard. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I mean, you get these big guys that are 300 and 320 pounds. Sometimes they don't move as fast as those 250, 60-pound defensive linemen. You know
how much of it is coaching? Like what you were mentioning earlier tonight. Like how much of this is coaching?
Well, I mean, listen.
Like if John Schlarman were still the coach of the offensive line,
I'm not going to dog Wolford or whatever his name is. Like I'm not going to dog him. I think when he was here before that he done a decent job. That was the 21 team. That was the 21 team. And I felt like he had a decent offensive line that year. We did. I'm not going to dog him because this is his first year with guys that he didn't recruit, and trying to come in here and do this. That's the problem that I think this Kentucky team has been having. So for 3 or 4 years now, offensive line coaches, offensive coordinators, we've been switching offensive lines and coordinators like candy every single year.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. These are guys that these people didn't recruit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's his fault. That's his fault. That's his fault because he left us.
Yeah, listen, with Wolford, yes, because he left. But let's be honest. How many of you guys would leave if Nick Saban called you?
Well, yeah, but he wasn't recruiting.
People want
here.
to talk bad about people sometimes, but let's be honest.
The problem was, though, he was, I don't think he was recruiting the depth that we really needed here, so he kind of left us high and dry. We got, I don't know I don't know how to even say this YouTube name on here, but he's got the Power K in his profile picture there. Y'all got to talk about how trashy Tennessee's fans are for booing real injuries. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that at the beginning of the show. It's not classy,
bad
for sure.
Tennessee fans are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and that goes, I mean, that's any time, to be honest, in any game, anywhere. It don't make no difference who or where it is, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, absolutely. But
yeah.
So, Brad, I mean, do you feel any different now than you did last week with a coaching change? Like, do you feel any strongly in any direction?
I feel a little better this week because I feel like tonight they actually put forth an effort. They actually tried. They actually had a decent game plan. I feel like that was at least good signs, to be quite honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
On that front. Now, I'm never going to be happy with a loss. I'm especially not going to be happy with a loss to Tennessee, to be quite honest with you. Tennessee, they're about as rough and ugly as a fan base as you could possibly ever have with anybody. I mean, that's
I agree.
the truth.
Yeah. Jared says Stoops won't be gone until at least the end of the 2025 season. 2026 wouldn't shock me. I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it's hard for me to see him wanting to keep doing this after this year. Like, it just kind of feels like the end. What do you think, Brad?
I don't know. I mean, they're still out there recruiting. They're still getting recruits coming in, 4-star guys. They're still after a couple now. I'm not real sure. I mean, there's a part of me that says that maybe Stoops moves on. There's a part of me that says that. Mm-hmm. But then I look at some stuff and I think, I don't know. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think he gets fired. Now, if we are sitting in this same position next year, in 2025, I think there's a good possibility. If we're sitting losing, 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6 or whatever this has been games, and we're sitting 3-6 next year, I think there's a good possibility that he will get fired. Now, I don't feel that way this year. I agree with Jared Murphy. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll get fired this year.
Jalen says, I'd say we are starting all over next year in some way offensively because Hamden has been so bad. I don't think they give him another chance. Yeah, I mean, you can't – no matter what, Brad, no matter what coaching changes we have, I feel like you can't bring him back, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let me read the comment again there. I was looking at something else.
I saw that, yeah. What, Jalen's comment? Yeah, he said, I'd say we were starting all over next year in some way offensively because Hamden has been so bad, I don't think they get another chance.
But that's so sad. That's been our problem. I've been saying that for 3 years now, and every year we wind up with some crap offense and offensive coordinator that we can't even keep. Like, we're never going to fix this problem if we can't keep a coordinator. It's going to continue.
Jared Wells says, "How Brennan Marion is
Hammonds, give other people a chance to call. You had a chance to be on here. and you're not on here. So don't call. Get off. You said you didn't want to be on. Get off.
Jared,
and I'm not playing.
Jared says hire Brendan Marion. I know that's kind of John's like doesn't come on the show. He wants to call in. That is
ridiculous.
John. Who's Brendan Marion, Brad? I don't know who Brendan Marion is.
Jared, I'll have to look that one up. I don't know all the OCs across the country, so
yeah, you got to educate us, Jared.
That one, I'm not sure who Brendan Marion is. I don't know all the OCs across the country.
Eric Hall, I was at the game and we looked really good. But with that said, Stoops plateaued and needs to go before he tarnishes his name like Recruiter Cal. Yeah, like that's the thing, Brad. Like I've heard people say, he doesn't want to leave it like this. So like people don't think he'll leave because he don't, people don't think he wants to leave it in a bad spot. But there's no promise that it will get any better, right?
That was my biggest worry last week when we were talking about moving on and that it looked like it was over and that he might move on and everything else. I mean, my biggest worry is that what we have witnessed between 2018 and 2021, 22 is the best we're going to see for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So people act as if Kentucky football can be something on the national stage. But I'm here to tell you guys, look at Vandy right now. Everybody that has any sense would tell you that Vandy is having a great year, right?
Yep.
Wouldn't you say that, Coleman? Wouldn't anybody tell you that Vandy's having a great year?
Yeah.
Guess what?
For
Vandy, they're 6-3, and they got 3 tough games left. They might go 7-5.
Mm-hmm. And they think they're having a great year. Yeah, I mean,
they're having a great year. You know why? Because they're in the SEC. Guess what? That's exactly where Kentucky is. These people that act as if we are going to somehow be in the top 5, top 6 of the SEC, and that we're going to compete on a weekly concept with the Alabamas and the Georgias and the Texas and the Oklahomas. And I mean, they're not exactly thinking exactly right. Here's what I'm going to tell you. And Hammonds is one of these people. Here's what I'm going to tell you. 8 or 9 wins for Kentucky is probably the best we can ever hope for.
And Jared says he's the OC at UNLV. Was Texas and Pitt wide receiver coach considered one of the top up-and-coming coaches? Well, I'll take a word for it, Jared. We need offense.
Well, UNLV,
that's what we need.
Barry Odom's got a good offense out there. I mean, he's done okay.
John says, I say we accept this crap.
I'm just telling you, these people that think we are going to somehow, like, if we could ever get to the point, John and I had this silly conversation earlier, okay? And I'm going to tell you exactly what I told him. John's always upset that we can't compete against the Tennessees and the Georgias and the Texas in 2 weeks. I'm not upset at that. You know what I'm upset at? I'm upset that we let a terrible Auburn team come into Lexington and beat us.
Yeah,
I'm upset that we can't defend and win games that we are heavily favored in.
Yeah.
I'm not upset that Georgia beat us. And I'll be honest with you, as bad as I hate Tennessee, in Knoxville, I'm not upset that we lose in Knoxville. No. I'm just not.
Yeah. I mean,
What I'm upset at is that we can't win SEC
The home
home
games.
games
Yeah.
that we are favored in, like South Carolina, like Vanderbilt, like Auburn. If we had those 3 wins, where would we be?
We'd be what?
6. We'd be 6-3.
Yeah, right.
If we had those 3 wins, we would be 6-3, exactly where Vandy is.
Mm-hmm. And totally possible that we do have those.
And
right?
guess what?
Totally doable.
If we beat Murray State and we beat Louisville and we fight hard against Texas and lose, we're sitting 8-4, and that is about where Kentucky football should be.
Eric says, I disagree. Kentucky can play in the SEC. We just need a coaching staff, and somehow we get that NIL money. We would be great. I agree, Eric. Like, I think that, especially now with the playoff being 12 teams and potentially going to 16 within the next few years, like, I think there can be some years that we make the playoff.
I never said that we can't get there on occasion. I'm telling fans, and for me, it's not debatable. I'm telling fans that on an average, that year in and year out, if we could ever consistently get to an 8 or 9 win team, I'm talking consistently. That is exactly, I think, about the top that you could hope for as a Kentucky fan. Occasionally, if we are really good, we might sneak up and get to 10-2 and have a chance at the college football playoff with 12 or 14 or 16 teams. Occasionally.
But like Jared says, and like you've been saying, Brad, we got to win the winnable games. And it feels like Kentucky football, obviously we played well tonight, could have stolen this one tonight. If we won tonight, and then, obviously you win at Ole Miss, but then you drop every single SEC home game of the year against very, very beatable teams. Like, you're never going to be like, we can win those big games. So obviously we can take care of business at home.
Listen,
it's not like we can't win. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah, we're 3-6 and had a terrible season. Yet we still was within 1 point of Georgia at home. We beat a top 10 Ole Miss team on the road, and we hung with a top 10 Tennessee team, only losing by 10 on the road. But yet, here we are, 3-6 with losses at home again to South Carolina, Vandy, and Auburn. South Carolina and Vandy are not terrible teams. I'm not sitting here telling you guys that they're terrible teams, but they are home games in the SEC that we were favored in and should win.
Absolutely.
It's that simple.
Well, guys, we'll go ahead and open up the phone lines here. It's 502-234-1504. Give us a shout. We haven't had a Tennessee fan ever call in before, Brad. I know that will happen at some point. We might get trolled eventually at some point. Might be tonight, might be another night, but you know that it's actually Brad. So, but I know the Tennessee fan because this is Josh Hart calling in here. Josh, how you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good. How you guys doing tonight?
Just, another loss to Tennessee. Sucks.
Are you there?
What's up, Josh?
I'm here. You got me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. I
was saying it sucks. Another loss to Tennessee,
Yeah.
John is
I
not
didn't really get to watch the game,
could
but
have been on the show.
I just want to say something about the season. Like Brad said, you look about South Carolina and Auburn and Florida and all these games, and you're just wondering what the heck happened. I just don't get it sometimes. How do we show up for Georgia? How do we show up for Ole Miss and then we turn around and just like don't show up for these other games. I don't get it.
Yeah.
At all. And it's been so disappointing. We had such an amazing amount of talent this year, and here we are with 3-6 and 1-6 in the SEC. It's just ridiculous.
But we're playing like down 20 guys injured.
Yeah, and the other thing that Brad just said, we're playing down 20 guys injured, and we go get blown out by South Carolina, we get blown out by Florida.
Florida.
We didn't get blown out by Auburn, but it certainly felt like it. It doesn't make any sense, and we've got to be able to get to the next level. We got to win the winnable games, and it's just there's no other way to put it. There's nothing else to say other than it's frustrating. So,
yeah, it's very frustrating. I mean, does Brock come back? I mean, is there a second year of Brock Vandergriff? Is there a second year of the OC? There's so much doubt right now. You can't fire Mark Stoops because we owe him $44 million on a buyout. It's so disheartening. I mean, I didn't think it was. I mean, I knew it was this bad, but when I saw the stats tonight that we're 1-6 in the SEC or whatever it is, that's heartbreaking. That we had such a damn good team, and here we are, the new Vanderbilt of the SEC, and it hurts.
Well, I agree, man. I mean, there's no other way to put it, but yeah. So next year, you're right. You're kind of in the pickle. Like it goes back to what I've said about the parallels between Kentucky basketball and Kentucky football. Right? It's a waste of talent. We had Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham, 2 lottery picks coming off our bench last year. It was a waste of talent. This is the most talented football roster maybe in our history. And, we're 3-6. It does feel like a waste of talent.
You got Barry and Brown. You got Dan Key. You got Macklin. That's 3 major wide receivers. Chip, does he have another year? Does Brad know? Ask him if he knows if Chip has another year. That dude didn't pan out. And I really think that was part of our issue this year. If Chip would have been there and he would have been like a kind of Ray Davis guy, maybe we wouldn't even have these issues, because if we had a running game that opened up the passing game, then we wouldn't have had this. But I don't know. Just ask Brad what he says, because I can't hear him. I just only hear you.
Well, yeah, it's Brad. I think he's done. Isn't that right? I think this was his only year of eligibility.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is already his 5th or 6th season in college.
Yeah.
COVID
eligibility.
I really think if we could have had a better running game like we had Ray Davis, I just think we would have been so much more successful.
Well,
I really think that him being out, and we really never got the running game established. The offensive line's been absolutely horrible. But I just think if we could have just had a better running game, I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, we just could have had a better year, because with the run, you can always make the passes. And I just don't get it. And ask Brad if he thinks that we'll bring the OC back for one more year.
Yeah, I certainly don't think that. But Brad, you think he comes back?
Gosh, that's a tough call, man. Do I think that we need him to come back for continuity? Yes.
You do?
Do I like him as an OC? No. So it's a tough call.
I don't know, Coleman. It's just been very disappointing. I'm glad basketball season's here. I'm very pumped up about that. I really think we're going to beat Duke in the first game on whenever that is, November something. I can't remember.
Yeah, like the 12th or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I love Kentucky football, and I love Coach Stoops. Let me put this out here. I love Coach Stoops. I'm grateful for what he's done for Kentucky. I'm grateful for what he's done for our program. because we were horrible before Stoops got here. So let's give some accolades to Stoops. Even though we're frustrated with him right now, he's been a hell of a coach, and nobody can really deny it. I mean, you can say all you want to and talk all that crap you want to, but he's done a good damn job at the University of Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's just really frustrating and honestly kind of sad. It's really sad. I mean, that this is the state of the program right now. And, because I really, really like Mark Stoops, and hopefully he'll, end on a good note, in some way. Maybe we'll beat Louisville, and that could be a nice parting, gift if he decides to hang it up or, whatever. But, well, we got some other people calling in, man, but we really appreciate you calling.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Love your show. Love College SportsCast. You guys are awesome. You guys ain't following them, please follow them. These guys are amazing. Both of them. Just love their shows. Love the content and what you guys do. Just keep on doing. I'm very proud of both of you. And God bless y'all and go Cats.
God bless and go Cats, man. Thanks so much. You're on with Talkin Kentucky. I think we got a new call on here. Yeah. Calling in. Oh, it says call ended. I don't know why it says call ended. Well, Claude's getting happy there. Well, call in 502-234-1504. I think we got two calls at once there. As we've established, Brad, after a loss, everybody wants to talk. We've talked about this. So
100%. That always happens.
All right, you're on with Talkin Kentucky. Who's this?
It's Clyde.
Clyde, what's
up,
your
Clyde?
thoughts, man? You got the floor.
I'm sorry. Repeat that again. I'm sorry.
I said, what are your thoughts, man? You got the floor.
To be honest, it's just I don't like. I've been commenting on the live, and I'm just like over all of it. Like, I'm just done. Like, I'm just tired of this. I really, honestly, like, I'm just frustrated. Like, it's just so aggravating with all this talent that we have, and we cannot produce anything on the field with the way our offense is ran, with the way our O-line is, and our running game actually did okay. And I was actually all right with the running game.
Yeah.
And I was actually glad to see that Demi was back. I was happy about that because I like him a lot.
Yeah,
and
me
I thought
too, man.
Wilcox is the guy.
Wilcox, that for the first play of the game.
Wilcox is the guy.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I like Demi too. Don't get me wrong; it's a good combo.
Yeah,
but
50
Wilcox,
yards. That was an impressive run, and to be honest, I thought, when we went up 7-0, I was like, man, I don't know if this is gonna last, and then they scored, and then we went, and then we kicked the field goal, which, by the way, our field goal kicker, he is definitely going to play in the NFL because that man does not miss. He really doesn't. Despite the season that we've had, our field goal kicker is top 5 projected field goal kicker by Mel Kiper.
Yeah.
For the NFL draft, this upcoming draft. So he will be playing on Sundays.
He will. Yeah. Absolutely, man.
He's got the distance too.
Well, man, we got some other people calling in and everything, so we might keep it moving here. But you got anything else for us before we let you go?
I think it's honestly time for a change, and we have to just accept the fact that we need to just let Stoops go. I know that's hard to accept, but we need to come to that realization. I think it's just time. We're not going to fire him. Buyout's too big. I think he'll just leave on his own. I don't think we'll fire him. He'll just leave on his own.
So you think at the end of the season, you think there'll be a separation just like with Cal?
Yes, after the Louisville game, yes.
Okay. Well,
I think somebody might come call him. That's what I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to take the next call, man. But thanks for calling.
I said it last week at the
Okay.
end of the show.
Yes.
We had a long.
Okay.
All right. You're on with Talkin Kentucky. Who's this?
Hey, it's Jared Wells. What's up, Coleman?
Hey, Jared. What's up, man?
man.
Well, I live in Tennessee, so you can probably imagine how my
Oh
day's
my gosh,
going.
dude, you should see all the Tennessee fans that are commenting on our YouTube feed. It was crazy, man. We had to block a few of them.
We did have.
I would
one that
honestly
was halfway
there was
decent.
a time in my life when I was used to us being bad, that as long as we the only thing I cared about was beating Louisville and Tennessee, which of course most of the time we never beat Tennessee. But that was there was a time when I was used to us losing to everybody else, that those were really the only two games I cared about because I hate those two teams so much.
Yeah.
So it was one of them things. Man, something that this is something that kind of drives me crazy, and I don't know why. This is one of those things that sort of is specific to football and football fans and sort of the verbiage that gets thrown around in football. I think all of us are grateful for what Stoops has done, but the idea that there are some people out there that are still sort of oh, you can't call for the coach's head. You can't, do that because look at what we were before he got here and all that kind of stuff. In any other walk of life, if you go work for a company and you make them $30 billion 1 year in profit, if you turn around the next year and blow it, you're not going to be kept around. That's just not.
Right.
And for whatever reason in football, it's always well, remember what he did 4 years ago. Remember what he did 3 years ago. And it's dude, the standard changes when you prove that you can win.
Well, yeah, and people are doing that not just with football too, right? I mean, people are doing that with Cal. People are saying, "Oh, well, he went to so many Final Fours and he got us the championship."
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I'm yeah, but we also have the two worst tournament losses in program history and the worst regular season loss in program history and the worst regular season record in program history. So you can't just overlook those things.
And it's something that I don't want to stay on here forever because I know like you said, when we lose, everybody wants to talk, so I don't want to stay on here forever. But, there's a thing too that, man, it's one of those things that was always a concern of mine when we were winning, was that and there were a lot of people that, if you said this, it was kind of a sacrilegious thing at the time because we were winning, and it was shut up, don't worry about it, we're winning. But the problem was, unfortunately, we were winning at a time when the SEC East, when it still existed, was very, very down from what it traditionally was. And it just makes me wonder, now that Tennessee's on the rise again, Florida is eventually going to get their coaching hire right. They're probably going to hire Kiffin at the end of the year.
I was going to ask you what you thought about that, if you think they'll go after Kiffin.
Oh, yeah, I think Florida will 100% go after Kiffin. They'd be stupid not to.
Do you think he actually leaves Ole Miss for there?
Yes, because he has no shot of contending every year for a national championship at Ole Miss. He can at Florida.
Well, I think this year's proof of that, right? If he was going to make a run at it, this was going to be the year, right?
I mean, where would you really rather be? Would you rather be at a place where you have to struggle to keep your assistants every year because he's talked about that publicly, or would you rather go to a place where you've got the resources to actually really contend for a national championship every year? But again, my point being, as all these teams have started to recover, including South Carolina and apparently now Vanderbilt, all of a sudden we're not winning these games anymore. And it just makes me a little bit concerned that was a lot of Stoops' success, right time, right place. And at this point, I'm not sure it wasn't.
Do you think, people say oh, that's because, the only reason we had success in those early Stoops years was because everybody else sucked. What do you say to that?
Man, it's kind of hard to disagree with that to an extent. I mean, listen, when you really consider how tough the SEC was when Rich Brooks was here, when you had to go out there and play Spurrier, South Carolina every week, and you had to play against Meyer every week, and you had to play against Philip Fulmer's Tennessee every week, that's a whole different beast than the schedule we've played up until maybe this year or last year. now that the coaching is sort of starting to recover in the SEC. It's just not the same level of talent, and now that that talent has started to recover, it just seems like Stoops can't hang, and I'm again, I don't think they'll fire him. I think he's around at least for another year because Barnhart's never been one to pull the trigger very quickly. So I don't know, man. I think we're just kind of stuck. I hate that we're at that point because I think that's going to kill a lot of momentum. But anyway, I don't know. It is what it is.
Do you think Stoops will want to stick around though? Like, do you think he wants to keep doing this? I mean, he's been public about not loving the whole NIL thing, and I've always thought an early retirement would be in the cards for him.
Well, let me ask you this: when he made the I thought that too, and then I'll get off here. But I thought that too for a while. But when you make the comment, and he made this in a press conference, I don't remember. I think it was this year when he made the comment. Like, hey, don't you guys remember what it was like before I got here? Like,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That does not strike me as the kind of guy who's going to walk away from $44 million.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it'd be hard for anybody to, right? Like,
it would be.
So
it would be, and I think somebody that has succeeded at levels that a lot of people have not succeeded at a place like Kentucky. I just think in Stoops' mind, he probably is owed that money, and to a certain extent he is, if you want to talk about just by sheer contract measures. And so I just don't see him walking away from that. I think he's here, and I think he's just going to have to. We're going to have to make some changes at OC. There's going to have to be some staff changes, but I think that's about all we can hope for. Anyway, man, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the call, man.
Jared, I don't think that's the case here, man. I mean, so if Stoops leaves, he's not retiring to walk away in the sunset. He's going to go to another team with another contract.
Yeah,
and
I think he would if he leaves now.
There's a place that could very likely be open that might give him a phone call.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep.
So
go Knowles. Yeah.
Everybody's talking about this $44 million and that he won't leave and he's not walking away from it and all this stuff. And I don't think any of that is going to be true when it comes down to it.
Hey, we'd love to get. I'm getting tired, so we'll definitely we'll wrap this up here soon. But we'd love to have a couple more calls. We don't bite. 502-234-1504. Even if you're a Tennessee fan, you can call. It helps our numbers. That's all right. So we'll talk. We'll talk to anybody. So yeah. Claude says Florida State will take Stoops and William Gibson, new face in here. Nice to see you, William. Heck, FSU better call Dion first, he says. Think FSU called Dion?
I'll be honest with you. I think they'll call Stoops.
Oh, yeah. No, I think so. I'm getting a 706 number. I don't know who that is, but you're right. We're talking Kentucky. Who's this?
Oh, this is Bill.
Bill, nice to hear from you, man. Thanks for watching.
Yes, sir. How y'all doing tonight?
Well, I mean, I guess not as bad as I thought we might be. At least the game is closer than we thought, but still stings to lose to Tennessee.
Yeah, well, coming into the game, I was afraid that it was going to be like 52-10 or something. I thought that our guys would probably quit. I'll be honest. I thought Stoops had lost them.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
So I was pleasantly surprised, and I thought our defense played great. When Tennessee scored, I think 2 or 3 of them was because our offense gave it to them on our side of the 50.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Twice.
And I've heard a lot of people tonight say this is the most talented team Stoops has had, and why are we this and why are we that? Mm-hmm. Look, talent don't mean everything. Texas A&M, they're the 5-time reigning recruiting champions, but they haven't won jack. It takes more than that to win.
Yeah, it does. It does.
And, if you got prime Peyton Manning back at quarterback, if the line ain't giving him more than 2 seconds to throw the ball, you're not going to have no success.
That's true. That's true. I think we may have been talking about this last week a little bit, you and I, but, when Schlarman passed away, that's when everything changed, right? That's when the O-line started going downhill, and that was the identity of this program, and seems like that's when everything changed.
My opinion, and I could be dead wrong. Stoops and them obviously know more than me, but I think he looks for a certain type of nasty O lineman that's physical, and he don't get the athletes. Like Oregon and them that sling the ball, they'll get the more athletic linemen.
Yeah,
that are made for pass blocking.
Right.
Our guys are made for run blocking and to get nasty.
Right, and
then you got pressure from our fan base to run an offense that our offense isn't built for, that the line's not built for. He's giving in to that pressure and hiring these guys that want to sling it, and we're just not built for it.
Well, this is what I heard, and I'd be curious to talk to Brad about this too. Maybe we'll talk about it after you get off here. But I've heard that Brock was Liam Cohen's guy that he brought in, and they sort of built this system or for the personnel around Liam Cohen. And of course, Liam ditched us for the second time. And then, Bush's system doesn't really work with the personnel that we have. I mean, I've heard a lot of people say that. That could be the case.
Say the same thing about Scangarello, by the way.
Yeah.
It's no excuse. I mean, it does make sense. But that's an interesting point about the linemen. I mean, you're right. Like, we get those, kind of hard nose, in the trenches guys for linemen. That's why we're so good at run blocking. But they don't have the quickness and athleticism to keep up with what we need to air it out. So,
well, what I saw, Brock's got time. I mean, he's delivering good balls.
He is, yeah.
We have trouble, especially it seems like that our receivers drop the ball at the worst times.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't just seem like it. That is the case. Absolutely.
He dropped that one on second down. I mean, it was a touchdown. It hit him right in the hands, and that's when we ended up going for it on fourth down and fell in there at the beginning. But he's got to catch that ball. I mean, it hit him right in the hands.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks for calling in. As always, and watching the show and listening. We really appreciate it, man. Especially after a loss, it's a lot to come on here and talk. So thank you.
Oh yeah. All right, have a good one.
All right, go Cats.
Thanks, Bill.
All
right,
Brad,
I want to address something. Well,
okay.
You getting another call?
Not yet. Nope, not yet.
Okay. I want to address something that's been talked about with a couple of these callers.
Okay.
And in the comments a little bit. So everybody keeps talking about, let me just say this. What's really wrong with Kentucky football and what's been wrong with Kentucky football? If you go all the way back to the last couple of Eddie Gran years, what's been wrong with Kentucky football outside of the one Liam Cohen year that we had, that we had Levis and Wandale Robinson. Outside of that, Stoops would be great running this team, running this program, if he could do one thing, and that's find an offense.
Yeah.
And an offensive coordinator. All this talk about Stoops and Stoops this and that, and if he should or shouldn't and go, this program would be fantastic if he could do one damn thing. I'm telling you guys right now, we are never, ever, ever going to get over this hump doing this same thing year after year after year and trying to win games, scoring 18, 20, 21, 22 points. We are in the SEC. You are never, ever going to win more than 5, 6, 7 games scoring 18 to 20 points a game. I don't care how great a defense you got. I don't care what kind of talent you get in here on the defense, whether it's 4 or 5 stars. I don't care what happens. We will never climb that mountain. There's only one thing that needs to happen.
Yeah.
And that's for us to put an offense on the field that we can all be proud of, that'll score points.
Getting a call here. You're on with Talkin Kentucky. Who's this?
This is Kevin Nottingham.
Kevin.
London, and I was just listening to y'all talk, and I'm sorry for some reason I can't hear the show while I'm talking to you on my phone. So
Oh, that's okay. No worries. No worries, man. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
okay. I was just calling in, like, I agree with the guy that we need an offense, but where I think it's so complicated for Kentucky is people talk about we got these great recruiting classes, which would be if Kentucky wasn't in the SEC, but it's still towards the bottom, and somehow Kentucky, like, it's complex, like they got to take their shots when they're there, but they have to have an offense at the same time, which would center around running the ball. To me, that shortens the game. Like, you have to, time of possession is very important to Kentucky.
Yes. Yeah, it is. And I mean, to be fair, that's how we beat Ole Miss. That's why I was just getting ready to tell Brad is like, we can still win games like that, but I don't think we can.
Occasionally.
Occasionally, like Brad said, we can't consistently, obviously, win these games at home against South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Auburn. Like, we need to be able to put up 21 plus points consistently to be able to do that.
28 plus points.
Yeah, 28 plus points. But Kevin, where are you calling from? Are you Eastern? I see you got the 606 number here. Are you from Eastern Kentucky?
Well, I live in London, but I'm actually in Corbin right now because my mom's sick. Kind of keep an eye on her. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Home of Reed Shepherd.
Oh yeah, great player. Happy for his success. That's a great family and a great tradition, and very, very happy for the Shepherds.
Absolutely. Well, what do you think about the future of the program? The football, switch back to football here. Do you think Stoops kind of hangs it up after this year? Do you think he sticks around, tries to have a better year?
I honestly, I know he's frustrated, but I can't see anybody giving up $44 million. And then it's Kentucky football. Like, I don't know who we're going to get. Like, there's things that frustrate me about Stoops, and I'll say coaching, but it's compared to the rest of the SEC. He's not a bad coach. Like, to me, if I needed a defensive coordinator, but I'm just a fan, I don't know much, Stoops would be the first guy that I call. But we need like a lot of help on offense, and I don't know what they do to get around that. But somehow they have to me, a run-first offense that is centered around play-action pass. And it's just catch-22 because, like, if you throw it and you don't connect, and all of a sudden, like Stoops says all the time, you're behind the chains, and this offense is not built to pass block. So, I mean, I'm really concerned with NIL and then going back to 105 scholarships and then just the SEC getting stronger because of that. So, I mean, it's difficult. So I've just made up my mind. I mean, I've not quit, but it's just going to be what it's going to be. And I just hope they can figure some things out. But here's the one thing I know. I'm frustrated by it seems like what the offense has been this year. But we can't keep changing offensive coordinators every year either.
No.
We need to commit to somebody and say, you know what, regardless of what happens, it's your program and get some stability.
You're exactly right. The continuity is one thing that, or lack thereof, I think has hurt the program for sure. But
it is.
But thank you so much for listening and for calling in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
A couple more calls here, maybe.
Just to continue talking about what I was talking about. That's what's been so frustrating with me through the last 3 or 4 years. Is if we could just find an offense, we have the hard, tough nosed guy. That's the head coach. That's gonna. We have a pretty tough defense most of the time and everything. And if we could just figure that out, we could be an 8 or 9 win team every year. If we could put points on the board and run a damn offense. I mean, I was watching Arkansas today, who got smoked by Ole Miss. And they're running pass plays over the middle. They got freshman quarterbacks and everything else, and they're running pass plays over the middle, and they're putting up 31 points on a team that smokes them 63-31. And they're putting up 31 points in a loss, and we couldn't put up 31 points in 2 ball games.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously.
Well, guys, we might start to. We'll do the last call for calls here. 502-234-1504. If anybody else wants to call. But or we might start to, we'll start to close it out here. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, but I think we've said enough. We've said all there is to be said.
So for me, before we go off, I am going to be in Lexington. I'm going to be covering the women's game on Monday night. Opening for basketball is starting on Monday night. It opens for the women's team and the men's team, and I will be there.
In College SportsCast, aren't you guys doing some kind of Big Blue show?
We are Big Blue Hoopscast. Going to be doing that once a week and doing a show. I am media and covering the women's basketball and attempting to do a little bit more. It's a lot harder to get in on the men's, but I'm attempting to do a little bit more on that side. But we are going to be doing a show, Big Blue Hoopscast. I think once the season gets going here, we're going to try to do it on Monday nights because most of the time we don't play on Monday nights.
Yeah.
Basketball. We do this Monday night, which is a little different, but most of the time throughout the season, we don't play on Monday nights, women's or men's. That's kind of an odd night. So I think we're going to try to do it on Monday nights after this first week, I think.
Sweet.
Definitely looking forward to the basketball season. Stoops got a recruit today, Caden Lewis, committed to us today. He's a top 30 point guard, 4-star.
You mean Pope?
And
you said Stoops.
Sorry.
Other marks. Yeah.
Other mark. Yes. I'm sorry. I was talking basketball. Yeah. Pope got a commitment today. Yeah. Sorry. You're right. I did say Stoops. I didn't mean to. But he's going to be with Jasper Johnson and Malachi Marino, and still trying to get Caleb Wilson, and we'll see what happens with that front. But those three is a very good start on the recruiting front for Kentucky basketball. So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And looking forward to covering the women's team. Georgia Amore is preseason All-American on the women's side. Clara Strack, I think, is going to be fantastic. And watch out for the freshman Clara Silva, 6'7", in the center. She's got nice footwork and nice moves. She's going to be a huge plus, in many ways.
Yeah.
For this women's team. They're going to do basically a twin tower. So if you're a Kentucky basketball fan, if you can go into the Wayback Machine, you got Mike Phillips and Rick Roby was the original Twin Towers, and then you had Sam Bowie and Melvin Turpin. And Kentucky basketball's kind of been, had some Twin Towers before in the past that done really well here at Kentucky. And the women's are going to have the two Claras, Clara Strack and Clara Silver. They're actually both Clara S's, Clara Strack and Clara Silva. And they're 6'5", 6'7", Twin Towers. Nobody else is going to have that kind of size with two girls, I can promise you. Not in the SEC. Not very many in the country with two girls that'll have that kind of size. So excited about that, and we'll see how the seasons go here early. The men play Duke early, and the women, the fourth game of the year, it's November the 16th, might be the third game of the year, is against Louisville. So
okay.
They play early. It's November 16th against Louisville on the women's side. It's going to be a fun game, and I'm planning on trying to be there for that one too. So that's going to be a fun game to go to.
Absolutely. And be sure to subscribe to Talkin Kentucky and College Sportscast on all the things, YouTube, Facebook, X, Spotify, Apple. We're on iHeart as well, and more. That would be really great.
X. I'm on X.
Yeah.
Well, you got X on there. I'm also on TikTok, and I got an Instagram.
TikTok.
Instagram is not doing too great for me, but I do pretty decent on TikTok too.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So we'd love for you guys to subscribe to those things. We do here on my side of things with Talkin Kentucky, we do post-game shows. So we also do the night of the week varies, but we do a regular episode live on here each day of the week, and we do talk about some silly things other than Kentucky sports as well. So
2 weeks from tonight. Well, next week, let's start with that. Next week, Kentucky football's off. They're in a bye week, which might come at a good time for this concussion and a few of these injuries and stuff. They have a bye week this week after the Tennessee game. So I think we will be off on the football post-game shows. I'm still trying to get Coleman and Caden to invite me to do a post-game on the basketball side of things every once in a while.
Oh, hey. Yeah, absolutely. Hop on with us. Yeah.
been trying to get that done.
Yeah, anytime, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So man, I can't tell y'all how much I despise Tennessee.
I did see a Tennessee fan in the comments said Kentucky's they're probably going to get blown out by Vandy. Joke's on them, Brad. We already did get blown out by Vandy. So,
actually,
take
we
that.
got beat by Vandy,
yeah.
But Tennessee's going to have to play them too. This Vandy team's not a bad team. They're really not.
No, they're not. They're not. But all right, guys, well, subscribe to us of all the things. Never miss our show. We really appreciate you guys listening to us. Means a lot. Couldn't do the show without you. And we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. For the Murray State post-game show, which I'm sure will just be.
Hopefully we'll get a win.
Yeah, hopefully that'll be a win. I'm sure that will just be riveting. Got anything else, Brad, before we get out of here?
I don't think so, man. Covered it all. Appreciate you, Coleman, always.
Yep.
You're great, so I appreciate you and love doing all this with you. And I feel like, to be quite honest with you, I don't know if me and you talk about it enough or not, but I really think it helps both of us. I know I see a big spike in things.
Absolutely.
When we do things together.
Me
And
too.
I hope that you see a spike in things on these post-game shows that we're doing and stuff.
Absolutely.
Because I know I do.
Yes, I absolutely do as well. And it's been a great thing. We'll keep it going, not only with football for the years to come, but we'll also keep it going with basketball too. So, my co-host will be on with us, Caden Holmes, for basketball post games, and we need to get Brad and maybe John roped in on some too. So,
John,
we'll do that.
I don't know about after losses, but John will be all right the other time.
Heck yeah. For Coleman Scott and for Brad Harvey, Cats fall to Tennessee, 28-18. But we'll get them next year. Next year, Brad. For Coleman Scott, for Brad Harvey, thank you folks very much. We'll see you next time. Go Cats.
Go Cats.